So, how are gratuities handled under the California Labor Code? In California's Labor Code, found in Article 1 of Chapter 3 of Part 1 of Division 2, there are a number of laws related to gratuities. Now, Article 1 was actually enacted back in 1937 by Chapter 90. Section 350 of the Labor Code defines the terms employer, employee, employing, agent, gratuity, and business. Section 351 prohibits an employer or an agent of the employer from collecting or receiving any gratuity or a part of a gratuity that is paid, given to, or left for an employee by a patron, or an employer is prohibited from deducting any amount from wages due an employee on account of a gratuity, or requiring an employee to credit the amount or any part of a gratuity as part of the wages due to the employee from the employer. In addition, Section 351 of the Labor Codes says that an employer that permits patrons to pay gratuities by credit card is actually required to pay the employees the full amount of the gratuity that the patron indicated on the credit card slip without any deductions for any credit card payment processing fees or costs that may be charged to the employer by the credit card company. Section 353, it requires every employer to keep accurate records of all gratuities received by the employer, whether received directly from the employee or indirectly by means of deductions from the wages of the employee. Section 353 states that any employer who violates any provision of this section of the Labor Code is guilty of a misdemeanor. It's punishable by a fine not exceeding $1,000 or by imprisonment for not exceeding 60 days or both. Section 353 requires the Department of Industrial Relations to enforce the provisions of this law, and all fines collected under this law are to be paid into the state treasury and credited to the state's general fund. Finally, Section 356 of the California Labor Code is a statement of the legislature that it declares that the purpose of this article is to prevent fraud upon the public in connection with the practice of tipping, and declares that this article is passed for a public reason and cannot be contravened by a private agreement. As part of the social public policy of the state, this article is binding upon all departments of the state.